Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Problem Solver Politics live stream, Christmas Green edition. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And today we're going to be talking about what is looking like the plausible, at this point, potentially probable run of one Andrew Yang for the mayorship. Is that the correct word, Cody? The mayorship.
Sure, why not? We can go with it.
We'll go with that one. Of New York City, the Big Apple, looking to replace one Bill de Blasio, who has some hilariously bad polling results that we'll have to talk about later. Cody, tell us what's going on.
Yeah, well, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about this tonight on stream, because I think our last stream, actually, we talked about the possibility of this. We talked a lot more about kind of what we think about it. I think it's a bad idea and you shouldn't do it. However, it does seem in recent days that Andrew Yang does seem to be in the early stages of gearing up for what potentially could be a run. So, go and pull this article that came out from Politico a couple of days ago. I want to go through it because there's some stuff going back to November we're even going to go into, but from Politico, I believe it was December the 8th, so 2 days ago, Yang is calling New York City elected officials to gauge a mayoral run. By the way, I want to say the headline just says Yang. Doesn't say former Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang. Like, they could just put Yang in these headlines. People know what he is, which we'll get to in a second for what that also means for this. But they mentioned that former presidential candidate Andrew Yang is calling elected officials to gauge support for a possible bid to become New York City's next mayor, according to several people involved in the talks. Yang, who championed a plan to provide all Americans $1,000 a monthly stipend, is also in talks with Tusk Strategies, the consulting firm that worked on Mike Bloomberg's 2009 mayoral campaign, the People said. Sounds like Andrew Yang is running for mayor and seems excited about his path to win, said one person who spoke to Yang, who has decamped to Georgia to volunteer for the U.S. Senate races of Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff. Another weird angle of this as well. We can talk more about this later, Cardin, but as a New York Cityer, one of those terrible people who lives in New York City and didn't hate it, how would they feel about some guy literally like driving up from Georgia to run for their marathon? He's not from Georgia, but I mean, it's like you literally were just not in the city. Campaigning for Democrats, don't get me wrong, that could be an angle for him. I just think it's a little bit humorous, this idea that it's like, it's just weird. Like some guy who's like, oh yeah, I was campaigning for our senators down in Georgia. I don't know. Yeah. If you're like a hardcore Democrat, it's probably good. If you're a hardcore New York Cityer, I imagine you'd be kind of like
Here's the thing. Two thoughts are going through my head simultaneously. Tip O'Neill famously said that all politics are local, and I believe that has flipped in the age of the 24-hour news cycle, legacy media failing and being replaced by social media, and internet news being more prominent than traditional news in millennial circles. I actually think all politics are national now. So I think there's more openness on behalf of New Yorkers and Democrats in general, Republicans in general, to view, okay, cool, this seat is a stepping stone to bigger things, and so on and so forth. However, with that said, New York City, my man, is a very, very unique beast. And you do not just walk into that city and act like you own the place. Because New Yorkers are New Yorkers that smell other New Yorkers a mile away. And generally, carpetbaggers do not fare well. Papadopoulos in our district tried to run. That failed.
Well, I mean,
okay.
It's way different than that.
Cenk Uygur,
way different.
Chunky Yogurt,
way
he
different,
tried to run.
But it's not even the
okay,
same
yes,
thing.
I guess it's kind of different, but just like our city on both sides has rejected carpetbaggers every time they've tried, New York City, I don't think you can underestimate the power of being a New Yorker in order to run as a New Yorker. Okay. And Andrew Yang, he's got some clout in the sense that he's from New York State. Okay. He's from New York State. But there's this saying in New York that you're not a real New Yorker until you've lived there for 10 years. And that's like a legit saying. So has Andrew Yang lived there for 10 years?
He's lived in New York City for a while. I don't know exactly how long in the city. I don't want to get too far
into
this.
So that's the question.
I literally was just talking about the optics of leaving.
Okay, can I
New
point
York
out one thing though?
To go to Georgia to campaign in Georgia and then come back to New York.
Cody,
I thought that was kind of funny.
I sent you something. I sent you something in Discord that was really funny.
I understand it. We'll get to the jokes in a few minutes. I just really quickly want to breeze through what's actually going on here because there's some interesting stuff going on beyond that. So, beyond the fact that it appears that Andrew Yang is behind the scenes speaking with people. It sounds like he's speaking with consulting firms. He's speaking with all the people you do at the beginning of a run. Something else I thought was interesting about this article, they didn't mention. I didn't see this confirmed before this. So Politico really recently reported, this was the end of November, that Yang's team conducted a poll testing whether he could succeed as a third-party candidate. But a person familiar with his thinking said he would instead join the crowded field of Democrats vying to win the primary in June 2021. Very interesting. There's this poll that came out a while ago where it was like a blind poll. They just described candidates and asked people if they'd be receptive to them. I think the wording was something like, what would you think about an independent former businessman who wanted to give everyone $1,000 a month and was the former recipient of the 2012 Obama Champion of Change Award? Like, very specific, but interesting. Politico's now coming out saying that actually was something done by Yang's team. So, he's doing everything to get ready. I can't go as far as to say he is literally 1,000% running. It's going to happen. However, he's doing what you have to do at the start, reaching out to consulting firms, reaching out to the people in New York City, making sure he's not, one, not stepping on any toes, but two, that endorsements are going to be a real thing you can get. Also, we can do a video on this. Something else very fascinating. They mentioned he's entering the primary for the Democrats. One of the things that was interesting too, that poll they mentioned as well, it was testing him as a third party or an independent to avoid this primary. Dude, this is what's crazy. I didn't have this pulled up at first. Let me pull it up. So this primary, all municipal or local elections in New York City in 2021 will be done using a ranked choice voting primary system.
Yeah.
However, this was going to be the New York City mayoral race. The primary was going to be one of the earlier ranked choice voting elections they'd have in New York City, right?
Yeah.
Well, recently, I believe City Council, I'll see if I can pull it up. Here's an article from New York Post. Anyways, so if it isn't enough that a bunch of people are going to be running in this primary for the Democratic nominee for the mayor, we'll go through this article very quickly that New York City lawmakers are suing to delay new ranked choice voting system. So even more crazy drama and nonsense going on in this upcoming primary.
Yeah.
6 city lawmakers are suing to block the Big Apple's embattled Board of Elections from rolling out a new ranked choice voting system next year, claiming officials have failed to prepare for the potentially confusing switchover. It is going to be weird when they do it, whenever they do it. So that is part of it. I don't want to get too far into it. I just thought that was kind of funny as an extra layer to it.
Yeah, and that kind of proves my point. You say this all the time, Cody. All the time you say, what makes you think that you're going to replace, with your highfalutin ideas and idealistic notions, somebody who has literally woken up every single day thinking, this is what I need to do to get power? New York is a shark tank, man. It is an absolute shark tank. And it's got power roots and power structures that run deep into very dark places, So the same kind of people that are willing to sue in order to get rid of ranked choice voting will sue and do whatever it takes to keep some young buck from coming in, or as better said, billionaire, because now Andrew Yang is a billionaire. In researching this, did you see the thing that I sent you on Discord?
Oh yeah, they keep getting called billionaire again. He keeps getting called a West Coast billionaire. I don't know why. Honestly, I do think it's.
Can you throw it on the screen so people know what we're talking about?
Sure. I don't know what the exact word for it is. I think there is a lot of people who just see an Asian guy and just go probably some West Coast billionaire. It's not fair at all, but that does seem to be what's going on.
But no, when we were covering his Democratic run, he never got called a billionaire. He got called a tech entrepreneur. He got called a billionaire a couple times. He did?
Yes, but
jeez.
But not the biggest deal. I just want to go through a couple more interesting things on just him running for mayor. Because there's a couple interesting things I want to touch on. Then we can go and we can thigh slappers for the rest of the stream. But I want to go through a couple more facts here. So a couple polls came out that were really interesting. So one, the New York Post reported on Tuesday, Yang dominated in a slingshot strategy survey of 1,000 Democratic voters conducted between November 30th and December 6th. technology entrepreneur, was the first choice for 20% of respondents. So basically, a couple polls came out. A separate poll they mentioned came out testing ranked choice voting. Listen to this. They had a separate question testing the advent of ranked choice voting. So basically, kind of the ranking system 1 through 5. Anyway, so Yang was ranked first by 17% of respondents and second by 12, putting him first in both columns, basically.
Yeah.
He was the number 1 and the number 2 choice for mayor in that same questions. Bradley Tusk and Chris Coffey of Tusk Strategies have also been calling elected officials and other New Yorkers to assess support for a Yang candidacy. Several people familiar with their outreach said. Coffey declined to comment himself. So that's basically the facts of the Andrew Yang portion I really wanted to cover. But a couple other things going on. And get into the more, what's the word I'm looking for? The less tangible aspects of it, I guess, in a second. And what's going on running in New York City. Do you want to be mayor of New York City in 2021? All that stuff. But one other thing I wanted to show you I thought was fascinating. Check this out. List of the most popular politicians in America, right?
Yeah.
Check this out.
Still Jimmy Carter? Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. But anyway.
I would have thought Barack Obama by far. Arnold Schwarzenegger's clocking number 3?
Well, because he's popular and he's a politician, right?
Yeah, okay.
Bernie, Joe Biden. You get the Elijah Cummings, Elizabeth Warren. We get to the bottom here, right at the top of the 20th, or right around the top 20. Andrew Yang is right there with Nancy Pelosi.
Wow.
And Cory Booker.
And he's the same percentage as Bill Clinton and Donald Trump.
Another Yougov poll came out, favorability. I believe he had like the second highest favorability rating behind Obama of any politician in America they asked people about. I mean,
really?
There's a national brand from Yang. He's doing great in New York City local polls. Also, I believe one last other kind of funny metric. It's always fun to pull this up, Predict It, but check this out. This is the 7-day trading on Predict It. For will Yang run in the 2021 Democratic mayoral primary. Just from December 7th to the 9th, it's increased from 43 cents to 67 cents. So.
Wow. So what are you going to bet on, Cody?
I don't know. It does seem like at this point it is the money is unpredicted, of course, but it's a market a lot of people use. The money's on. He will be running in the primary in 2021, which is fascinating. It hadn't switched from that. It was close. Let's see, 48 cents. So it was close in the last 7 days. I don't think in the last 30 days though it had ever been above 50 cents, which is roughly, you could say, a 50-50 shot. You could roughly quantify it as half the people betting for, half betting against it. I don't think it's actually a 1-to-1 thing like that. Anyway, but what's interesting is in these last few days, it has actually taken over as the presumptive favorite that yes, he will run in the primary. And you just look over the past, again, I don't think at any point over the last 90 days had it ever been that high. So I just thought that was also a kind of interesting little metric there that like literally he's hiring people to make calls on his behalf to ask them to support him to run for mayor, allegedly, according to Politico. So he is basically there. But sorry, that was, I just wanted to kind of go through and show that, like, yeah, because it does kind of seem like a little bit like, is he really like getting ready to run for mayor? He is. Does it mean he'll file and run? No. But he's getting ready. He's checking. He's seeing if it's a viable thing, which, by the way, happens all the time. What do they call these? Exploratory committees, right?
Yeah, exploratory commissions.
Yeah, commission like that.
So this reminds me when I was serving, actually, in appointed office. I remember there was somebody who wanted to run. Ironically, he is now our congressman, but he hadn't pulled papers yet, and there was a lot of pushback from the older people on the committee, like that you're not a real candidate until you pull papers and all that other stuff. So I'm really interested to see how this pulls out. And by the way, what is his pitch going to be? Okay, we're all familiar with Andrew Yang. And I think he's got solid name recognition as much as any of these other lightweights. You know, like who knows who the comptroller is?
Right
Stringer.
now, Andrew Yang is a nationally relevant politician by some metrics on the level of the Speaker of the House. I mean, like,
yeah, okay,
if he was running for mayor of any city, he's
but hold on. But I'm just saying, it's not like in New York he's got the recognition of De Blasio or like Bloomberg. It's not like Bloomberg's going for a fourth.
I get that, but keep in mind a couple things as well. Just really quickly. Do you remember this? Back at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Andrew Yang led a charge to sue New York and New York City over
their elections,
not having primaries. They're going to skip the Democratic primary.
Yeah.
He said no, we should have and then also one, and then also two. A couple things I want to remind you as well is that Andrew Yang for a while now has actually been doing several different UBI pilots in New York City.
In New York City, yeah.
This was one from this spring. Andrew Yang's nonprofit will give $500 to 20 New Yorkers every month for 5 years in his first big experiment with universal basic income. My only point is that, he's also, over the past year, been doing things that impact New York City either directly or more indirectly throughout the state of New York. I mean, he has been planting some more seeds when you kind of look at it as one big picture, you know?
Yeah, I definitely think there's been foundations that have been laid. Here's my question, though, is what is his pitch going to be? See, the pitch to the American people in the broader Democratic primary was UBI, human-centered capitalism, so on and so forth. What is the pitch going to be for the people of New York? Because I was reading the article from Politico that was really interesting. And the biggest kind of, I don't want to say attack, was they said he's basically going to be a pro-PBA kind of candidate. Good luck in the Democrat Party, they said. Because unions run deep there. Unions choose who gets to go where in New York City. And so how is he going to win over all these people? What's the big pitch going to be?
What do you mean? I mean, he's probably going to be he's probably going to be UBI and then turning the city around. Probably rebuilding the post-coronavirus economy of New York City. That's probably going to be his pitch, and building it around UBI. Is that crazy?
No, but okay. No, but I'm just saying, okay, so now how do you compete with the tons of mailers that are going to go out from the unions, steelworkers union, all the doormen's union, the police union, so on and so forth, that are going to say oh yeah, this guy's keeping our big contract alive so you get your overtime hours.
Well, that's why.
That's a big dragon to go up against.
Consulting firms to go and do a bunch of work before you officially announce you're running, like he's doing right now.
Okay, I'm going to look up this exact quote. So I actually X'd out of it. I was such an idiot. You know what I'm saying? But here it is in the article. Now this is somebody in what sounds to be like the Stringer campaign, which is his main opponent here. It says, I guess Yang is going to run as the pro-PBA. For those that have never lived in New York, the PBA is the Police Benefactors Association, which is the pro-police union. Actually, not police union, but it's you get what I'm saying. So it says, I guess Yang is going to run as the pro-PBA, pro-Uber, anti-labor candidate, said the person from the rival camp.
That's just stupid. Why would that be what Yang runs on?
Well, you just have to consider how people are going to lampoon your campaign and how you're going to actually.
The rival can't.
So how is he going to fight that?
I'm pretty sure just by doing his campaign, it'll show that he's none of those things. Those are just random slurs.
Because I got to tell you, I wonder in New York,
pulling things out of a hat at that point.
I wonder in New York after the riots if being pro PBA wouldn't be so bad. I wonder after the debacle with Uber and with the medallions that you have to have on taxis and so on and so forth, if being pro Uber may not be so bad now. And I'm wondering. Anti-labor candidate. I don't think he could ever get portrayed as an anti-labor candidate if he is offering UBI.
And also, dude, whoever's smearing him is infinitely less popular than Andrew Yang is. Andrew Yang's a rock star.
Can we go over those stats?
People will be coming to New York City from the tri-state area to go to his events just to be around him because he's a rock star candidate. You can argue if it's a good or a bad thing or if they're stupid or not. I don't think so. I like Andrew Yang. I'd probably do it if I was closer. But I mean, that's just probably the reality, dude. Is that people who aren't from New York City will be giving him money and coming out to support him and volunteer for him.
Well,
who else is going to have that running in the? Who else has the ability to just go on CNN whenever the hell they want running in that election? You know what I mean? I mean, he's just built up this platform for himself.
Yeah, and I think that would actually be the biggest strength where his national campaign would come into play more because, dude, ain't no gang like a Yang gang, brother. I mean,
what's that even mean?
What'd you say?
Nothing.
well, ain't no party like back when I competed in show choir, I'd always be like, ain't no party like an ex high school party, and you'd name your high school, because the ex high school party never stops. So, and it was a chant that you'd do, and you'd see who could do it louder. So, ain't no party like a Yang Gang party, because the Yang Gang party never stops, right? So it's just, it's a hoorah cheer. So anyway, I agree with you. Like, I could see Yang people so enthusiastic about him that there would be a willingness to move to New York City for a little while, or a willingness to go bridge and tunnel it from New Jersey or from, Philadelphia or Pennsylvania or the whole, what's called the tri-state area. Okay. I could see Andrew Yang attracting a much wider swath of volunteers than just your average Democrat. Cause like Stringer, for example, he was the comptroller. Okay. Who's going to be volunteering for him? What young door knocker is going to be smashing all the doors in his student housing up on 128th Street, by Columbia University, in order to get all of his other college friends to find out about this cool idea, universal basic income, and this hot, fresh, young candidate named Andrew Yang? Like this Stringer guy's not going to have it. This other woman that used to be the MSNBC anchor is not going to have that.
This is just one metric, but going off this Yougov metric,
why are you dogging on me today, Cody?
I'm not.
You're dogging.
I'm just saying, I think you're overthinking a little bit. Like, if Andrew Yang were to enter the election, dude, he's almost as popular as the governor of the state. He's like the most popular governor in the country. It's just one of those things. Like, if he jumps into the election, Andrew Yang, someone who's he's already the polling front runner. He's already one of the odds-on favorites in gambling markets. He already is the name recognition, dude. He basically has not his own show on CNN, but he's routinely on CNN. Probably less now because he's campaigning in Georgia. But you see my point. Like, he is in a perfect position to go for it. Now, we talked before. I think he either would have to love New York City and want to commit a very long portion of his life there, or kind of give up on future aspirations in politics. Being a former failed mayor of New York City is not going to fare you well in national elections, right? Like, he has to be there for a while and do a good job. So that's another conversation.
No, but dude.
For the first time in a while, it looks like he's there deciding to run.
Bro, I will tell you, in the Democrat Party, you only fail up. Bill de Blasio, I swear he'll be the next mayor of Los Angeles.
It doesn't make any sense, man. Come on, that makes no sense.
No, he'll be given one of those $250,000 a year appointed jobs where you don't have to show up, and you're like the chief of sanitation.
He's like a billionaire, not billionaire, but he's like worth millions of dollars. A landowner, or a landlord. He's fine. He doesn't need a job.
I'm looking up Bill de Blasio net worth right now. I've actually never thought about that.
Yeah, no, Bill de Blasio's fine, dude. Trust me. He's one of the biggest landlords in New York City.
It says he's only worth $1.5 million.
We'll see.
Remember, Andrew Yang was only $1 million.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I don't know. It just
this site says it's $2.5 million. So
when does the mayor of New York City failed up?
When does the mayor of New York City what?
Dude, remember when
it used to be Bloomberg?
I know. And where did he go? Think about, dude. I remember when Rudy Giuliani was America's mayor. It's kind of the joke in the thumbnail of this. Remember that?
Yeah.
Then he lost to John McCain in a primary for the Republicans, a few years later. He wasn't the greatest mayor of all time, but he was a popular mayor from the city, nationally popular, and he couldn't beat John McCain in the primary. So.
Okay. I see what you're saying. So, how can we put our money where our mouth is? What's a bet? How do you bet on these things, Cody?
Just go to Predict It and put money on that he'll run.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm actually going to see this. Predict It. Can you gamble from predictit.com? Or do you have to go to Vegas or something?
No, it's predictit.org. I think it's posted out in America and you could do it.
Okay.
Yep. But I'll show you guys again. Here, you literally just the way it works is you either buy yes or no shares, right? So you either buy will he run, will he be in the primary, buy yes, buy no, 71 to 30. It's actually up to 71 cents. It's gone up a little bit. And essentially the way it would work is
so if I buy yes and I put down $1, I only get 71 cents back if he runs? Or wait, no. How's it go? I don't know how this works.
I'm trying to find the exact. Basically, you would get 71 cents of the dollar back. So you'd want to buy the cheap one and then get the 71 cents to the dollar.
So
I believe you're buying a share for 72 cents, and if he wins, you get $1 from that. So you win roughly 30 cents on your 70-cent bet, as opposed to winning 70 cents on a 30-cent bet, I believe is the easiest way of explaining it.
Okay. Huh.
Difference between betting 30 cents and getting $1 back and betting 70 cents and getting $1 back. If the odds are really safe, you'll bet 70 cents and only get $1 back if you win. If the odds aren't safe, you bet 30 cents and get a whole $1 back if you win. Does that make sense? I believe that's roughly how this works.
Okay, interesting. I find also on this website, the other big political race that PredictIt is apparently opining on, shall we say, is will AOC run in the 2022 New York 14 Dem primary? 47 cents yes, 53 cents no. So it's almost 50-50 on whether or not she's going to run again. I wonder why that is.
Most things are. Hey, apparently you could put $500 down today that Biden wins the election and get $500. I think you get $600 back if you bet $500. No, less. You'd get $500 and you wouldn't make much, but it'd just be like you'd probably win. Like it's probably just easy money. Interestingly, you look at Georgia, it's 92 cents and 99. Anyway, though, we don't have to go too far.
Okay, did we miss any super chats? No, okay, good.
And I don't know if Yang actually ends up filing any paperwork to legitimately run. However, he's getting ready. He's preparing. He's doing the things you do at the beginning of a campaign. He's starting to reach out to the people he needs to reach out to. He's starting to reach out to some consulting firms. He's starting to put some polls out there. He's starting to kind of ask some people behind the scenes, hey, if I run, will I have your support? It seems like he's there, man. Will he actually run? Maybe in this preparation stage, what he finds out is that he shouldn't run, and he doesn't. That could happen. However, he's definitely there. He's getting ready. This is what it looks like when someone starts to run for an office, is they do this. At least if they have experience and a reputation they want to protect. They want to make sure they don't embarrass themselves, like what Michael Bloomberg did, for example, in the 2020 Democratic primary. That was really weird. You want to make sure that if you're going to run, you have a chance of winning. If you're a high-profile person who has something to lose by losing, right? And you want to make sure that you have somewhat of an idea of what the big political players, the people that are going to be making the endorsements, what they're thinking. You don't want to get blindsided and be like, oh, no one endorsed you. It's like, what? I thought they would. Yeah, it's weird. You think they would, but they didn't. Yeah. You kind of want to learn that up front as best you can. So
yeah,
seems to be that's where he is, what he's doing though.
Yeah. So I'm still really curious about this Andrew Yang mayoral race. I kind of mill it over in my mind and just wonder a little bit of what it would look like. But
probably a lot of UBI stuff. Remember this video?
Which one is that? Oh yeah. Where
I'm just gonna run for a few seconds.
It was two entertainers of some sort. Were they YouTube stars? Were they rappers? What were they? I don't remember.
I'm just saying this was in Harlem. Like there is good energy for Yang in New York City now.
All right, Yang Gap, baby. Yang Gap, baby.
Yeah.
Y'all better be happy. I got stuff for y'all today. I forgot to get.
Because we'll get music strike if I play it for too long. Anyway, though, it's just like that was from New York City earlier this year. Like there is definitely energy and people in New York City who know who Andrew Yang is and support him. So, it's I don't know. I could see it when he does it, or not when. If he does it, looking like a win. But if I'm not going to be dumbfounded. I'll be like, okay, yeah. I mean, remember, dude, seriously, suing for make sure the primary vote happens in New York City.
Yeah, he's got chops there.
All of these UBI pilots in New York City, from the beginning, they're always in Brooklyn and stuff. He was always very focused in doing stuff in New York City. I just kind of figured because he was from New York City, more or less.
Do you think it was a long game? Do you think it was a long game, bro?
Well, he had been for a year. Since he dropped out, he had been kind of kicking around the idea of maybe trying to run for mayor. I think he likes New York City, and he figures, hey, if I'm staying active and doing things in New York City, helping the city, if I do decide to run, I'm in a better spot. And it looks like he's kind of, again, getting to that precipice, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Now, I still think, Cody, if Andrew Yang got a genie in a bottle and he could have one wish, if you could grant Andrew Yang one wish that isn't just having won the presidency, if he could have one wish, what do you think it would be?
Knicks to win the NBA Finals.
James
Dolan,
about his political career. If there's one thing he could have wished and gone back and done about his political career, what do you think it would be? I think I know exactly one thing he wished he would have done.
That's a weird question. I don't know.
Because it influences his mayoral run.
I don't know, man. That's a tough one. I honestly don't know.
I think he must be kicking himself, Cody. Absolutely kicking himself that in his long list that he would constantly rehearse and debate saying, oh, imagine how many single moms would be helped, how much we could withstand unemployment, how much we could withstand natural disasters. He never used the word pandemic. Had he used the word pandemic,
I think he would.
And there were just 3 sound bites of him and 3 different places having said that this UBI is necessary in case we have a pandemic or so. Any position in New York that he wanted, any mayorship of any major city, I think he's kicking himself that he did not use the specific word widespread disease or pandemic.
I mean,
you used to say something similar to this, man. I know that you were of the same heart and mind recently.
Yeah, but the more I think of it, I don't know. Because, everyone already says, Andrew Yang was right about this cash payment thing. So that's already the narrative, right?
Okay.
I guess it could be more so that, but it's people already saying that. People are already saying, wow, we should have been listening to this Andrew Yang guy. You know what he was talking about.
Yeah.
But Andy did talk about pandemics, by the way. Not in that framing, but he'd always bring up the last time life expectancy dropped in America. It was during the Spanish flu. And I don't know if he'd ever say pandemic, but he would definitely say Spanish flu.
He'd reference the Spanish flu multiple times.
I agree. I mean, it would have helped a teeny bit, but I just don't think it'd be a game changer. That kind of narrative that, Andrew Yang was talking about these monthly checks already thing, that exists today regardless. So.
Okay, so now I got a big question. Are we moving on to other subjects or no?
Sure, if you want.
Okay, you still have to show, when I was Googling this, the screenshot of how they kept calling him a billionaire.
Well, no, it's funny. You can CBS put this video out. Here, it's on you. I'll pull the video.
Well, on the video, they changed the title, but all the links still say Andrew Yang, tech billionaire. If you go back to it and you look it up, see it says billionaire Andrew Yang reportedly mulling a potential. Multiple links still call him a billionaire. It's kind of funny to me just because we remember when he was called John Yang and we remember when, they were shutting off his mic and everything.
You got Andrew Lang too.
Yeah, Andrew Lang, the whole 9 yards. But really, this is how bad the legacy media is. That just even, it is a simple error, but that's escaping as news. Just misclassing somebody, and we're supposed to believe that these people get all their facts straight.
Oh, well, why would you? They don't. They're lazy. They're just, Andrew Yang's a rich guy. I guess he's a billionaire. But I don't know. I have to be honest. This stuff, honestly, is just I could care less. That CBS called him a billionaire when he isn't.
So anyway, Sly Cactus has a question for us before we talk about all the people that Donald Trump needs to pardon. Sly Cactus says thoughts on the Pelosi confession about stalling stimulus
until. Did we ever get the first super chat too? I forgot to grab that as well.
Oh, there's another one?
Yeah, from Marcus Robert Johnson. Thank you very much, man. He said, Yang Gang, Andrew 2024, Facebook group here. Love your work. We'll be getting ready to fight. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you guys being here. And then, Sly Cactus.
Wait, so where are they fighting from? What was that super chat?
The Yang Gang, Andrew Yang 2024 Facebook group.
Oh, rock on. So they're still active.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I wonder how much of the Yang Gang is still pretty active.
Pretty good chunk. I see him on Twitter every day.
Yeah. I was about to say, I'd be really curious to see what the retention was of all those Twitter groups and Facebook groups. That'd be actually some really interesting data to check out. Then Sly Cactus says thoughts on the Pelosi confession about stalling stimulus until Biden got elected. I mean, Cody's grown up with this woman, basically. You know what I'm saying? Here in California, I hate to say it because I like thinking positively and I like being gregarious and fun, but there's just no hope and no fun when you think about California leadership. Like, we only elect terrible, cynical, selfish, sell their own mother in order to get a leg up in politics people here. And our list post Reagan is hideous. We have Mayor Shut Off Your Water Garcetti. We have drag us through impeachment and fake whistleblowers lie through his teeth with boggly eyes Adam Schiff. We have keep men on death row and in prison minorities that should be going home to be fathers and workers, keep them in prison, Kamala Harris. We have Gavin Newsom, nephew of the Wicked Witch of the West, Nancy Pelosi. Like all we do are bad, horrible, evil politicians. Okay? So here in California, we're used to doing something as cruel
I have a question for you.
as withholding aid to score points.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, what?
Where do politicians come from?
I don't. Once again, I disagree with you that all of them are bad.
No, where do politicians?
Where do
come
99% of all
from?
politicians?
Where do they come from? How does a politician become the politician?
A bureaucrat that wanted more power.
No, they're elected by the people. So it's one thing to just say politicians are evil and they're scum, but how did they get there?
You're
Why
right. Well, because the people are
Who
brainwashed
accepts
by a
it?
media that keeps
Dude,
defending
a story
them.
came out today that says Dianne Feinstein, like 90% has dementia or Alzheimer's. Like, it's like basically like Chuck Schumer has to embarrassingly remind her on a daily basis over and over again. You can't be like in any important decision making positions in the Senate because you like can't remember things anymore. And because she can't remember things anymore, they have to keep having that conversation because she doesn't remember that they had it. And then her defense, you know what Dianne Feinstein's defense was?
What?
What about the other people that basically have Alzheimer's up here in the Senate? I'll pull the article up for you guys right now. It came out like today.
Okay.
I mean, like, that's also California. She won by a couple million votes in 2000. Dude, she's like 11 million votes. Dude, I'm gonna post a link if you guys haven't read this article. It's kind of sad and scary, but it's worth a read. This is what this is like a depressing. Oh, sorry, 1 second. I didn't realize my ad blocker was on. This is like a depressing look at America and our government and who runs it. So, let's go through this.
Yeah, those ads are vicious, man. Can we get rid of them or no?
Tell you what, Card. Talk for 1 second. I'll take it.
Yeah, I was about to say that was brutal. Well, I was just going to keep reiterating that I don't know what it is about California, Cody, but do you think it's because we're so gerrymandered or what? But like Adam Schiff is winning. I mean, the fact that Adam Schiff won against Eric Early, you know what I'm saying?
Hold on, I got it up. Let's go through this. Just because, to your point, California politicians. Well, hey, California's a big state, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's 3 people, multiple, right? But there's only 2 people that get to be the senators that represent us federally. One of them is this woman and has been for a while, right? Go through this article. Dianne Feinstein's missteps raise a painful age question among Senate Democrats. In a hearing on November 17th, Feinstein, the senior Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, who at 87 is the
Dude.
Just reading it out loud. 87 is the oldest member of the Senate, grilled a witness, reading from a sheaf of prepared papers. She asked Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, how ridiculous is this? An 87-year-old woman asking Jack Dorsey questions about social media. Whether his company was doing enough to stem the spread of disinformation. Elaborating, she read in full a tweet that President Trump had disseminated on November 7th, falsely claiming to have won the presidential election. She then asked Dorsey if Twitter's labeling of the tweet is disputed, had adequately alerted readers that it was a bald lie. It was a good question. Feinstein seems sharp and focused. For decades, she has been the epitome of female trailblazers in Washington. Decades. It's coming up on probably half a century now, right? Always hyper prepared. But this time, after Dorsey responded, Feinstein asked him the same question again, reading it word for word along with the Trump tweet. Her inflection was eerily identical. Feinstein looked and sounded just as authoritative, seemingly registering no awareness that she was repeating herself verbatim. Dorsey graciously answered the question all over again. Social media was less polite, which I actually kind of, do you remember this? I kind of remember that, where she just asked him the same question twice.
I'd forgotten, but I remember there were like a bunch of memes saying, you know, like when the boomer asks you the same question twice, you know what I'm saying? I remember seeing a bunch of those memes.
Yeah. However, this is what I thought was interesting. So they go on further on here. So
well, and
some people are saying that she doesn't have mental decline issues. However, many others familiar with Feinstein's situation describe her as seriously struggling and say it has been evident for several years. Speaking on background and with respect for her accomplished career, they say her short-term memory has grown so poor she often forgets that she had been briefed on a topic, accusing her staff of failing to do so just after they have. They describe Feinstein as forgetting what she has said and getting upset when she can't keep up. One aide to another senator described what he called a kabuki meeting in which Feinstein's staff tried to steer her through a proposed piece of legislation that she protested was just words which make no sense. Feinstein's staff has said that sometimes she seems herself and other times unreachable. The staff is in such a bad position, a former Senate aide who still has business in Congress said. They have to defend her and make her seem normal.
Yeah, but see, this is what, I'm going back to the original question by Sly Cactus when he said, you know, thoughts on the Pelosi confession about stalling the stimulus until Biden gets elected. I mean, I love my state, but I mourn California, and I don't see how we're getting any better. And I don't blame guys like you who say, I want to leave. And it breaks my heart thinking that I'm considering fleeing my state. And you see everybody going, Elon Musk, Adam Carolla, Joe Rogan, Ben Shapiro, like right, left, center. All right. They're just flooding out. And why? Because look at these stats, Cody. Adam Schiff runs against Eric Early. Adam Schiff should not be allowed in polite society and be taken seriously ever again in his life. He dragged our country through the biggest fallacy that we have ever heard in our lives, suggesting that Donald Trump
he didn't even.
Okay, fine. Well, either way.
We're still in a war based on fallacies pushed by people still in the government.
Okay, fine. Still. Of the past 4 years, the Russia hoax was the biggest pile of obvious garbage, flaming hot garbage we've ever seen in the past 5 years. And he just got reelected 72.7% to 27.3%. You look at the margins by which Gavin Newsom got elected. He got elected with a 70.3% margin over a 28% Republican opponent. I mean, these are not even close. The stranglehold that they have on this state, the Democrats have, with no accountability for bad actors. I mean, you were just lamenting yesterday the DA of Los Angeles literally saying any crime I think that is associated with poverty will not be enforced, including but not limited to, you know, disturbing the peace, breaking and entering, loitering.
They won't be prosecuting it. Like the way I understand it, if someone is trespassing and disturbing the peace, they could be arrested for it, but then like there'll be no like trial for it later, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, come on. And this is coming on the heels of finding out that Swalwell was literally sleeping with a spy and his job's not getting taken away. So I mean, our current Democratic leadership of the state of California is worse in their shamelessness than I swear the Soviet republics were in behind the Iron Curtain, because at least they tried to fake it. Like, at least they tried to fake it. These peoples don't fake it. Swalwell knows he doesn't have to resign, even though he slept with a spy and probably gave her innumerable amounts of intelligence from being on the House Intelligence Committee. But he won't have to resign. Why? Because he doesn't have to, because he's running a 70-30 margin. All these places are gerrymandered and abused so badly that it's only worth it to be here if you're a billionaire Democrat donor, or you're an illegal immigrant, or below the poverty line where everything's free. Because they're like middle class can't survive, and you're hated. You're called a bigot. You know, it's just I don't see how we survive this the way it's going, because there's no sign of any any kind of turnaround. So when I'm asked my thoughts about it, yeah, I think what Nancy Pelosi did was absolutely shameful. Was the worst kind of thing you could do as a leader. Like, Cody, you yourself say your number one qualifier for whether or not you think a king or a leader is a good leader is whether or not they care about the people. How can Nancy Pelosi ever again say that she cares about her people when she literally delayed for months and months and months and months desperately needed COVID aid in the form of cash payouts that Trump and the Republicans were willing to sign into law the day of, simply because she was waiting for a new president? Like how can you ever vote for somebody like that again? But they do, 70 to 30.
I love this. I love this headline. Pelosi says she supports the smaller coronavirus stimulus now because Biden won the election. That was basically what she said.
Yeah.
That was, by the way, the same press conference when she couldn't say Build Back Better and she just gave up. She went like, Build Back.
Yeah.
And she like took a deep breath and went, Build Black. And then she just gave up and didn't even try again. I was like, that's not good. But speaking of, dude, sorry, I want to go through this Dianne Feinstein article a little bit more.
Okay.
Dude, some of the stuff in here is crazy. Listen to this.
Hit it.
So according to several sources, Chuck Schumer, the Democrat majority leader, was so worried that Feinstein would mismanage Barrett's confirmation hearings that he installed a trusted former aide, Max Young, to embed in the Judiciary Committee to make sure the hearings didn't go off the rails. He had done the same during Kavanaugh's confirmation as well. So, dude, like, there's people literally assigning handlers to oversee Dianne Feinstein because basically, from what this article is describing what's going on, she was a very smart, driven, capable, controlling person. But now she's not capable anymore, and she's not smart all the time anymore, but she's still controlling. So, like, she's in positions where she has to do things, and she won't do them, and she won't let anyone else do them. So now you have Chuck Schumer literally assigning, like, handlers. Like, you better watch her. Dude, she's our senator from our state. She's, like, the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee. I mean, like, listen to this. The precaution nonetheless failed. The Democrat strategy was to portray Barrett's confirmation process as a travesty, jammed through the Senate in the final weeks before the presidential election by hypocritical Republicans, bent on using brute power to replace the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg with their ideological polar opposite. The Democrats sought to fire up their voters by highlighting the illegitimacy of the process. But, to the Democrats' dismay, Feinstein instead hugged the Republican chairman of the committee, Lindsey Graham, thanking him for his fairness and for running one of the best hearings the best set of hearings that I've ever participated in. I like to hear that there's some nice working together, but I imagine people in the party didn't like that.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, there's one more thing I want to see if I can find here.
By the way, how would you feel? Like, think how bad you would feel as the 22-year-old political science intern or the 25-year-old Democrat operative who's probably worked in Schumer's office for 2 or 3 years or has probably worked in, Democratic circles for 3 or 4 years. And you're pulled aside by Chuck Schumer and said, you need to keep Dianne Feinstein from saying stupid stuff, drooling on her paper and tripping over her own, her own dress hems on the way. Like, what a crappy and awkward position
to this last bit of the story.
Do you put that on your resume? Like, secret Dianne Feinstein handler assigned by Chuck Schumer?
You don't put it on your resume, but it's favors you're owed. You know what I mean? Like, someone owes you a favor. Check this out, though, dude. I just want to get through the bottom part of the article here, this last little bit. So, Schumer had several serious and painful talks with Feinstein. According to well-informed sources, overtures were also made to enlist the help of Feinstein's husband, Richard Bloom. Feinstein, meanwhile, was surprised and upset by Schumer's message. He had wanted her to step aside on her own terms with her dignity intact, but she wasn't really all that aware of the extent to which she'd been compromised, one well-informed Senate source told me. It was hurtful and distressing to have it pointed out. Compounding the problem, Feinstein seemed to forget about the conversation soon after they talked, so Schumer had to confront her again. It was like Groundhog Day, but with the pain fresh each time. Anyone who has tried to take the car keys away from an elderly relative knows how hard it can be, he said, adding that in this case, it wasn't just about a car, it was about the U.S. Senate. How insane is this, man? Why is this allowed? And they go on to mention here, Some who have watched the situation unfold fault Schumer and the Democratic establishment in California for not having intervened before she ran for re-election in 2018. Yeah, what the? No one noticed that what was she, 85 in 2018? It's not like she was 60 back then. I mean, this was a couple years ago.
Because they're not about the people. They're not about the Senate. They're about power.
Dude, 2024.
And they'd rather have her die in office so they can appoint somebody or resign so they can appoint somebody. They'd rather control her like that and have her win the election than actually put it out to a fair and...
Check this out. I didn't realize this. I forgot. She's a senator and she got elected in 2018. So what's 18 plus 6? Dude, she's
not up until 2025.
Yeah. Realistically, yeah, end of 2024. How insane. Like she'd be coming out of office when she'd be like 90 something years old.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What's our and here's the other thing is there's no reason why she still had to be the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee, right? Like
yeah, it's like the people that pass judgment
relegated. But I guess she's a powerhouse, a lot of clout, been there for a while, and like even Chuck Schumer is trying to keep talking to her about it. To mention, but
yeah, she's gonna be 91.
Yeah.
I mean, at what point is it elder abuse? Like at what point, if you're forgetting, like, and by the way, I don't want to be making fun of her for this. Like, I hated seeing how the Democrats tried to mock Ronald Reagan when it was obvious that he was starting to slip. Those last couple of hearings were an absolute disgrace for the Democrats. And they still got egg on their face from it. In fact, Netflix tried to actually it wasn't Netflix. I can't remember what the production company was, but they actually greenlit a comedy about an ailing Ronald Reagan, thinking that because, progressivism was so strong in LA now and that Hollywood was so Democrat that, we could now make fun of the great Republican president, Ronald Reagan, for having dementia stuff. And it was one of the few things that once it got wind, like that finally even some of the old school Democrats were like, no, that is off the table. Like you can't make fun of old people getting Alzheimer's. Okay. Like we actually have a low threshold of what we just think is off limits, and I look at this and I think, look, Dianne Feinstein, it's great. Trailblazer, Senate gal. You know what I'm saying? Screw the man. Ain't no man going to tell me what I got to do in the Senate. Like all that girl power. Awesome. Okay. But you have been in office for 27 years. My co-host was born the year you were first elected. I mean, there's men that have been born.
She's almost 90 years old.
Yeah,
90. I mean, like Joe Biden's 80, and we go, Joe Biden's 80. Isn't that crazy? Joe Biden's gonna be like 84. She's 87 today. 87, dude. She was 85 when she got elected to a 6-year Senate term. Like, it doesn't take a genius to say, maybe this woman doesn't need to be 91 years old in the United States Senate. Like, it didn't take a genius to notice that in 2018. That, like, you're getting, like, just super crazy old. Like, it's one thing to be in your 70s or your 80s for like, early 80s for a politician. That's kind of old. But, I mean, like, dude, we're talking about, I mean, I don't want to, it's just 90 years old. Super, super old.
Yeah, it's just, there's no, like, we're not here to say that old people cannot serve, but like that one can't, obviously.
She's old for old
she's forgetting conversations. I mean, look, I've met some super sharp 90-year-olds that we're definitely not reporting them having forgotten what you said 5 seconds ago. Okay. Like I've met some dudes, there's like a 90-year-old Golden Glove boxer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I'm not saying that there's not a 90-year-old out there that's not sharp as a tack, but there's enough that it's an extreme minority, and it's definitely not this one. And there's just a point, where I feel bad, and I think it's dangerous. I mean, Senate responsibilities are if you're head of the Judiciary Committee, you are passing judgment. How can you pass judgment correctly in a Judiciary Committee if you can't remember the crime that was just read to you? Like, imagine a judge sitting up there looking, some guy named Cody the Oracle was just brought in, and the FBI has claimed that he had X, Y, or Z in his possession. Therefore, what say you, Judge? what was his crime again? Oh,
You know what it kind of reminds me of? Just want to get some super chats. You know what it kind of reminds me of?
Yeah, sorry. Hit the super chats and we got to go.
Recently, an article came out about Johnny Depp and his downward spiral. And it got so bad for Johnny Depp, he stopped memorizing lines and he had an earpiece in and he would just have people tell him his lines and he'd repeat them. It almost sounds like that's what she was doing in some of these hearings.
Yeah.
Anyway, couple super chats.
Yeah, let's hit the super chats.
So thoughts on the Pelosi... Oh, no, sorry.
Next one's Adam Duffy.
So, yeah, what up, PSP? What up, Adam?
What up, Adam Duffy?
So what would happen if the federal and state government threatened colleges to lower costs or no new funding? Would that even be possible? I have to be honest, I don't know if it'd be possible.
No, it is possible. This is something they have talked about before. Ever since the Fed came out and recognized that FAFSA loan accessibility is what had augmented college pricing, there's actually been talks about how do you rein in the cost of colleges because they have no incentive to try and be affordable. None whatsoever. Yes, it would be possible, but that's once again where like leadership and the intangibles are involved. There's no specific byline in a law that says, oh, the duty of the president or the duty of the executive branch of a state, aka the governor, has the duty of threatening local universities with withdrawing funding if they get too expensive. Like there's no law of the Keep College Cheap Act of 1997 byline 526A. Okay, there's no law that says that, but there's intangibles in leadership where executives like the president of the federal government or the governor of a state can actually use the bully pulpit to leverage good ideas. Okay, Andrew Yang uses his bully pulpit when given him in order to leverage good ideas like UBI. Okay, all these other guys are not because they get so much power from academia. Academia has been so influential and has been so good at making women undateable through like 17th wave feminism. Okay, having weird degrees that don't make people money or teach them valuable skills and pushing, horrendously divisive critical race theory and so on and so forth. Why? Because they have enough money from FAFSA loans to run these kind of crazy programs that would never fly if they actually had to pay their own bills. Okay, so what would happen if federal or state governments threaten colleges to lower costs or no new funding? All of a sudden you'd have people that instead of going off to college, quitting after 2 years because they really realize it's not for them and being saddled with $50,000 worth of debt that they have to pay back. And even if they die, it doesn't go away. Okay. Instead of being saddled with that lifetime burden, okay, they go to college. It would be affordable. Maybe they work for 6 months, realize they didn't like it, but then could go to a cool trade school, learn how to edit for film, learn how to, do termite or pest control work, learn how to do something and have a valuable trade that could feed their families for the rest of their lives. They would be like their boomer parents that raised them. And at some point when they were boomer age, hold 85% of the wealth of this country, just like their parents do. But instead, they're the largest voting bloc with the least amount of financial sway. So, would that be even possible? Yes. Next super chat. Adam Duffy, off topic, but I was curious why you all think there's a big push from my peers in my district to rename my old high school named after a Confederate officer. No one cared about the name till this summer, but what do you think about renaming schools and institutions for this reason? I got opinions, Cody. What's yours?
Oh, no way. You have opinions about this?
Yeah, I do.
I guess I don't know too much. Why? There just definitely has been a nationwide movement. You could say it's because of the Black Lives Matter protests or whatever. A nationwide movement against former Confederate statues all year. I mean, there's probably a million different reasons you can pinpoint is exactly why. But that is something swelling up. Honestly, for something like... It's a weird question. I have to say, from California, where I am, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. I don't change, name it. What was the name of the high school in Family Guy? James Woods. I don't name it after Bernie Sanders for all I care, right?
Yeah.
But it's just honestly, it's one of those things where I literally would just be in what am I? We're not Yankees. What are we? Being someone not from the former Confederate states of it all.
Yeah.
I just it's easy for me to be like, yeah, just replace it with, name it after Jon Favreau. I don't care. Name it after anyone else. Change it away. But for the most part, I just defer to people who live there. People live there who are like, yeah, we are definitely not down with a Confederate officer named after our high school, then whatever, man. That's fair enough to me, right? If people are like, we'll fight to the death to defend it, I'd be like, that's weird, man. I don't get it. I probably wouldn't, but I also don't live there. I don't know.
Yeah. So for me, I treat the Confederate officers thing in the same way that I treat the Confederate flags. I've heard people make the argument that the Confederate flag is about heritage, not hate. That's a big soundbite. That it's heritage, not hate. And it's like, okay, the South was the Confederacy. You didn't have to own slaves in order to fight for it. You're saying, okay, that's our heritage. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the Confederacy was the team that lost, and their capital in the South of the secessionist states, you know what I'm saying? They're the ones that lost. So I've never seen how it seems like Abraham Lincoln was so worried about forgiving the South for their crime and not further dividing the union of the states that he bent over backwards in order to make the southern states comfortable post-election. That's not saying the carpetbaggers didn't do bad things to take advantage of the situations.
What about just the idea? Because the reason why I'm not defending the Confederate Army here.
Yeah.
However, it's like if you are in a state that's in the South and it was part of the Confederacy, right? There's going to be individuals who did fight for the army there who also like built bridges and donated money to have a hospital, like did things in that geographical area.
If there was a bridge built by a guy,
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying
to me that's different than naming a school.
I'm saying there's people who lived in these regions who did things beyond fight for the Confederate Army that sometimes is one of the reasons why they're remembered in those areas. And I do agree. It's kind of weird and tough because, yeah, like they fought for the Confederate Army. It's honestly a good thing. But if it was like they were just a well-known, prominent individual in this region, it's tough. I mean, ultimately, one of the reasons why, being from California, again, you can name whatever you want to me. I'm pretty benign, don't care. I mostly just say
I'm not trying to sterilize. I'm not. For me, a lot of it would depend on when it was named. If this was a high school dating back to like, I don't know, 1915, you know what I'm saying, or something like that, I'd be a little bit more like, okay, all right. But if this is some school built in the 60s, all right, almost a full century after the Civil War, and they're still going hoorah on these Confederate soldier guys, I kind of be like, outdated, and they were the rebels. You know what I'm saying? So like it I don't know. To me, that's one where usually I can't stand the leftist rewriting and sterilization of history. But when it comes to the Confederate soldiers and things like that, Confederate officers and things like that, I'm like, well, I mean, if we were to annex Afghanistan,
but again,
for example, I wouldn't have or if we were to annex Syria, I wouldn't have on the flag of Syria, the official state flag of Syria, the old ISIS. You know, the old ISIS flaggette in the top corner.
The question, though, particularly, I think what's interesting here is we're talking particularly about individuals, not like flags and state symbols.
I know.
Again, there's people.
Maybe they were a benefactor of their community. Yes,
I understand. If they were renowned slave catchers from the Confederate Army, then yeah, they probably shouldn't be revered anymore. But if there are people who did a lot of things in their life, and one of them was fighting for the army of the country they happened to be born in and lived in,
yeah,
it is weird. But again, it's one of the reasons why I will just defer.
So Adam Duffy,
it is tough, right?
My answer is yes, it's tough, and I would want to know more. I'd want to know two things: who the person was, and second off, what the motivation between the people trying to erase that person's name is. Because if they're just a bunch of these other stupid leftists who are doing it because it's the latest hip thing, you know what I'm saying? Well, then screw you guys and go away. At my old high school, we had those guys come around once every 7 to 8 years. They demand that the William S. Hart High Indians rebrand and not be the Indians. And our 1 year, our principal, who I knew really well, did something really funny. He said, yes, I'll gladly do it, as long as you guys give me the $250,000 that it'll take to repaint the baseball field, the basketball court, and the football stadium. Oh, and redo all of our logos on every single team uniform. And he presented him with like a $400,000 bill or something absurd like that. And they quickly went away. But when I look at my school's mascot, which has this beautiful statue etched out of wood of a historically accurate Indian chieftain who's wise and regal and strong, and our motto is like pride in excellence. William S. Hart High Indians. Okay, I don't view that as a negative stereotype. I view the people coming and saying you need to change that because, you know, it's a misrepresentation of Indians or whatever. They're just the same filthy leftists that are looking to exercise
but that's an
power.
entirely different conversation.
Well, yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I would want to know
What I'm saying is
what's the motivations of these people trying
why
to change
does
it?
it
Is
matter?
it because changing anything once upon a time named Confederate is the hip new trend? Or is it because the guy literally, like you said, was like a horrible slave
what if it's
catcher? And
both?
we need to, you know.
What if it's both?
If he ended up being a horrible slave catcher, I'd probably, if I were on that city council, I'd be like, maybe we should change the name.
Yeah, I'm just saying. It's I don't know. I think it's tough it's tough sometimes. I agree it's easier with symbols, right? Like flags of countries and the things that were done in the name of the flag. But it's always tough with like individuals that happen to be a part of, especially nations that go to war. Because it's like, I mean, like this is weird, but you can look it up. There was people born in America who flew to Germany to fight for them in World War II.
Yeah. So we got one last.
German people. They felt that they were Germans. Their parents from Germany or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's weird, but like stuff like that happens a lot.
Yeah, he called him home. I remember that. I actually watched a really interesting Simple History, I think is the YouTube channel, video on that. There was one that fought in 3 armies.
Yeah. How about a funny personal thing, just a weird thing? One part of my family came from Italy, right? I believe my great-grandfather that came from Italy.
Rock on.
He came here shortly before World War I happened. He actually had to go back and fight for Italy in World War I. And then come back to America.
That's funny. So, well, I mean, it sucks for him, but I mean, it's like funny looking back. But anyway, last super chat of the day. Thank you very much. Silva Fang says Cali homeless super citizens and lawless insights. Huh. Is that a rap lyric, Silver Fang? Cali homeless super citizens and lawless insights. That must have been a mistype of some sort. But yeah, honestly, the homeless here kind of are super citizens. They're not even getting rid of the camps. They're straight up building bathrooms and like sanitation bins. Like, I mean, they're coning off lanes and underpasses. So there's less lanes for traffic now because the homeless camps are expanding so big. Like it's absolutely crazy.
Well, dude, there was on the 101 freeway.
101
405 interchange, by the way, is like the busiest intersection of freeways in the world. I was in the 101 a couple weeks. It's happened multiple times, and I'm driving. There's a bunch of overpasses, right?
Yeah.
Over the freeway, and I was like, oh, I guess there's like a street festival or something.
Yeah.
And I realized, nope, that's just every overpass was full of people in tents. Every single one. I just like assumed, oh, it must be a festival, a carnival, something. Nope, just there's other. I mean, it's.
Can you pull up just one last picture before we go
bad.
of Los Angeles huge homeless camps?
I mean, like,
Like-
yeah. If you ever seen a homeless camp before, we had them out here. It's just
No, but
crazy
it's
up
on
there.
steroids, Cody.
I
mean,
there's bigger ones elsewhere.
Oh, really? Where?
I swear.
Hoovervilles in the 30s?
Potentially.
I mean, bro, I lived in South America and I haven't seen homeless camps this big. Third world countries don't have homeless camps this big.
Well, we have Skid Row in Los Angeles as well.
Yeah, that's like 3 blocks.
I know, but it's like it literally is like. It's tough, dude. Like they're just like I'll pull it up. They're homeless camps. Like it's a bunch of homeless people.
Yeah, not a bunch. I'd say a motherfucking army.
Okay, whatever.
You know?
Yes,
Okay.
a lot of homeless people.
So anyway, got anything else you want to say before we go?
One last super chat. You want to read it?
Oh, yeah. Hold on, one last super chat. Says, ooh, Sly Cactus, thanks a bunch. Says, I got a promotion this week, so I'm feeling extra generous with the supers. Thank you, brother. Says, leaving a like or dislike or Adam Duffy will frown at you. That is so true.
Yep.
That is so
Please
true.
remember, just like, oh, one last thing I will say.
Hit it.
Yes, I actually did watch a new movie I was talking to you about. I watched Parasite, which I'm a year late on. I did watch a recent movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I thought it was kind of overrated and I didn't like it. I was just wondering what your thoughts were in the movie. Because it's the most recent movie I've seen. I know we don't have recent movies to talk about.
Okay. I loved Parasite. I definitely think that it was overrated. There was a lot of publications that said like this was the ultimate takedown of capitalism and yada, this and that. I don't think it was that. It was definitely indicative of Korean culture having issues with class, You could tell that. And I've watched a lot of that director Young or whatever is. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Something Bong something.
Yeah, Bong, director of Parasite. He's made some really good stuff, and I like a lot of his work. Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, maybe Young Bok is the guy that made the monster movie. I'm probably botching the pronunciation. But anyway, there's some great cinema coming out of South Korea right now, including...
Been for a while, dude.
I got tuned into Korean cinema came out 5 or 6 years ago, Train to Busan. Train to Busan right now is top 5 for me.
Cool. You ever see there's Memories of a Murder, I think is what's called.
No, I got to watch that one. You told me that one.
That's a really good one. There's another one that was really weird. I didn't like it, but it was really popular. I can't remember. But no, yeah, there was a lot of really popular movies that came out.
Yeah, so, that was it. So this is the same guy that wrote Snowpiercer. And it was Memories of a Murder.
And I actually...
Yeah, Memories of a Murder is what you were talking about from 2003.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
there was
anyway...
another one they did too that was like something like that. It's about like...
The Host. He wrote The Host as well. That was it. He wrote The Host.
There's one more. Hold on. There's one more I was trying to think of. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It was just another like Korean thriller that I remember was really big. It came out in like the mid-2000s. No.
Seafog, Okja.
No.
Parasite.
Oh, I Saw the Devil. That was the other one. I Saw the Devil. I honestly didn't like that movie. The subject matter and like just what the movie kind of what it fell into being, I was not a fan of. However, it was a well-made movie and people talked really good about it. So yeah, like it's been a while, dude. They've been doing some really quality.
Yeah, so I've been really, really pleased. On very low budgets, they're making great movies happen. And I think that's really where the creativity is, where your budget's low enough where you still have to, do those mental gymnastics to figure out how you're going to pull something off under the constraints of budget, but you still have enough to really let your imagination fly. And whatever the Koreans are doing, I'm liking it because they're batting easily 750 with me.
Well,
so
cause also like imagine if you had not seen a movie in 15 years and I got to hand pick like the 5 best English thrillers of the last 15 years and show them to you. You'd be like, wow, English movies are amazing. It's like, yeah, but keep in mind, you don't watch the just kind of like generic run-of-the-mill, churn them out for profit ones that come out all the time.
You want to know, here's a cool flick.
It's one thing with foreign movies. It's one of the reasons why foreign movies always get elevated to like, it's because you don't dig up the random garbage crap that gets churned out by every film industry from foreign countries. You don't cherry pick the best per decade. So.
Have you seen Train to Busan, Cody?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to know a really cool movie that's the prequel to that you have to see? That same director the year before had released an anime version of the precursor to that movie.
Yeah, I'm not a big zombie
prequel.
Guy, so.
And dude, it's pretty cool. I've never seen an anime zombie film, and it was actually quite riveting. I mean, the story worked, the plot twists were impactful, the ending was unforeseen and a surprise. Like I definitely dug. I think it's called Seoul Station, pronounced, it's like Seoul, Korea. So he did a film called Seoul Station that was the precursor to Train to Busan that was pretty sick. So anyway, yeah, that's all I got, Cody. That's all I got today. You have any other final thoughts?
No, that was it. I just normally if I do watch a movie, I'll go back and watch an old movie. I don't watch movies that are anything recent. So I thought it was interesting. I'd actually see something kind of recent.
Yeah.
It was really good. Again, Parasite, very well-made movie. I didn't understand a lot of the praise people gave it. I thought it was pretty...
It was like when they loved the platform because they thought that it was a big takedown of capitalism.
Here's the thing, I took away from it, just my reading of the movie was it felt kind of like defending rich people for looking down on lower class people. Because they're literally just trying to scam them every single second they're on camera together. It was just kind of weird. I was like, I don't know. They kind of feel justified not trusting these people because they're like lying and scamming every second they're on camera.
Well,
I don't know.
And that's one thing I liked about it, where I felt it was fair.
Aside from that, I thought it would look cool. It was well made. It was suspenseful, but it was just kind of funny. I'm like, at a certain point, I'm like, yeah, dude, I wouldn't try. Like, why do they trust these people as much as they do? Like, they're all lying to them and stealing from them. Like, what the hell is this? But anyway.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it, my man. Thank you very much for hanging out with us, guys. It's been real and it's been fun. This is Problem Solver Politics. We will see you guys in the next video.